Hey guys, I'm a couple of minutes late. I'm sorry. I had to scare a pantsless man out of the room. I had to tell my husband to take himself on out of here. Um, okay, so hey, dinner's ready. Truffles and Angela. This horrible story came to my attention because of Catherine Paulson. So I guess there are good things about her. She does bring about some stories. I don't know if any of you have seen the video on YouTube by Danielle Brigoli, who goes by Bhad Bhabie with some kind of bizarre misspelling, Bhad something 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 baby. Anyway, if you don't know who she was on Dr. Phil's show almost 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. And she was your typical rebellious teenager, didn't want to do what mama wanted, 13, 14 years old, wanted to run the streets, wanted to run with guys, wanted to smoke a lot of weed, wanted to drink the whole 9 yards. He didn't want any control. Another out of control teen. We've seen this like 5 zillion trillion times between Maury, between going way back, Sally Jesse Raphael, uh, Oprah, Jerry Springer, you name it. If there is yeah, Bhad Bhabie, there's reasons to talk about her. Hey, Aaron. Um, Apparently, when she did the Dr. Phil show, one of the things that happened was besides Dr. Phil getting on his high horse and tutting his disapproval and saying his little homegrown homilies like every pancake has two sides no matter how thin, which is true, but he arranged with her mother and her grandmother for her to be put in a troubled teen residential treatment center. Oh, yeah, I hope so too, Aaron. I'm going to be quick. I'm going to try to be quick about this. So Danielle was on there, and she was the one that said when the studio audience started hissing and booing her, started trying to want to fight the studio and said, "Catch me outside. How about that?" She put on the whole code switching. I don't know if it was supposed to be African American or Hispanic or what, but she put on the accent of those people she was hanging out with. I didn't really watch the episode, so I'm not really sure what level of people. Apparently, right after the episode, transporters kidnapped her. She says she was kidnapped, and I believe that's the only real term for it. Transporters will take these teenagers that the parents will pay for them to be taken in the middle of the night out of their bed when they're the most vulnerable and shipped off to a teen residential treatment facility. The problem with a lot of these facilities is they aren't very well overseen by the states. But this one really surprised me because it's not a religious one. For many years, I have been covering the religious ones, such as New Bethany, Home for Girls in Arcadia, Louisiana, the roll off homes in Texas, you name it. There is there's a state with at least three or four of these, if not a handful. There's just one recent one that I saw on the Dr. Phil show that has now gotten shut down, a Circle of Hope Ranch. Well, she wasn't brought to a religious one, and religious ones are exempt from any kind of oversight because most states will not take on religious organizations. But I didn't realize that the places that did not have religion connected to them would also not be overseen worth a damn. Turnabout Ranch is where she was sent. Dr. Phil has talked about Turnabout Ranch in glowing terms many times through the years. He shipped many, many kids there. Now, Danielle is standing up and talking about, I'm going to say the word, even though, if I was monetized, I would be demonetized now by saying this word sexual abuse. Significant sexual abuse occurred at Turnabout Ranch with some of the kids that were sent there. All sorts of crazy things happened there, according to Danielle Brigoli, and I believe her. She did a video series called Breaking Code Silence. She's given Dr. Phil until April the 5th to at least apologize and break his ties with Turnabout Ranch and some of the other places. She said one of the worst things about it was they would have, he may have financial ties to Turnabout. And I wouldn't doubt that one bit. I think he probably has financial ties to just about everywhere he ships people to or he refers them to. Because why else would he not refer them to it? I'm going to put links to everything that I'm getting, like our Bregoli's video here. I just watched it last night with my jaw dropped, and I watched it again this morning with my jaw dropped. She started talking about being forced to do reflection. Reflection. You think about reflection, you think that's a positive thing. You're going to sit back and reflect on everything. It can be a useful tool in psychological counseling. Um, and it can be helpful. It can be a big one. But at Turnabout Ranch, reflection was a punishment. You would have to walk in a circle for many hours, pick up horse crap in a wheelbarrow. I mean, maybe as much as 50 wheelbarrows full of it. And all sorts of insane stuff, deprived of sleep, made to sit in a teepee for hours without sleeping. Bregoli says that she was put in one of the teepees for 3 hours. I don't know how they're getting away with this because none of this would not be, this is all would be classified as abuse if CPS seriously got involved. What they were doing at Turnabout, what they are doing at Turnabout, sounds like it falls under child abuse. You can't do that. You can't do that to kids, especially not in a treatment situation. She was talking about some kids there that one of them tried to steal a car and ended up killing a staff member, and then how that was hushed up. One of the other staff members became disabled, and 2 years later, she died because of what happened. Bregoli said one thing that I have to agree with. When you have teenagers that are acting out, you have to ask yourself, what kind of trauma are they acting out of? You have to listen to them. You have to see if you can find them treatment that is not in a private owned or religious teen residential treatment center. I don't recommend these places ever for anybody. It's better to find somebody that you can take your child to. You can do therapy with them one on one in a therapeutic situation and they live at home. The only exception to that rule, in my opinion, is if you have a teenager that is harming younger children in the household, then yes, you would need to remove that teenager. What's really horrific to me about all of this with Bregoli is that this is just a repeat of what goes on in some of the religious residential teen treatment centers. I'm going to talk just a minute about the allegations that came out of New Bethany against Mac Ford, who's now long since deceased and can be held liable for the things he did. The girls there were not allowed medical care. The closest they ever had came to medical care is a staff member with a bottle of penicillin. And that has played out in some crazy ways. At one point, there was a venereal disease that swept all through the house. I guess it was, I don't know how it was spread exactly, except there's so many allegations that Mac Ford pimped the girls out to people, that he sold them for sexual abuse, sexual rendezvous with other people. He collected money for that. So he basically pimped them all out. At least that's what they're saying. These are allegations, in my opinion. Not only did they not see a physician on a regular basis when they needed to, one of the cruelest things I've heard said about a lot of these places, especially New Bethany, is that if you arrived with braces, one of the first things that would happen was you would have somebody with pliers that would remove your braces just so you would not have to go get them adjusted. They don't want any kind of oversight to the point where they don't want physicians or doctors or physicians, dentists, social workers, no one like that involved in the care of the child because they might pick up on the abuse is why I believe that they were doing that. They also had all kinds of different bizarre punishments they put some of those kids through. All you have to do is watch some of the videos that featured James Swift, and he can tell you about the boys' side of New Bethany. I think it was called Long Street Home for Boys, and some of the things that happened. Basically, at one point, they were put in cages naked and forced to stand for hours, chained up for days in there sometimes, in the cold, without clothes, without a towel or blanket, without anything, without bedding. Treated no better than animals, and not even treated as well as animals are treated in the pound. At least most of the time in the pound, those animals have a bed. These little boys did not. They were tortured at the behest of Mac Ford and the wards working there. The other thing is Mac Ford used to take those girls around and have them sing at churches, and that's when he started pimping them out. That's where the girls allege that they were treated like streetwalkers, that he sold them to various ministers and various other people for sexual fun. Those are the allegations. Um, since there was no oversight, Mac Ford wouldn't even allow the fire department, a fire chief, to come in there and inspect the place and make sure they were compliant with fire department regulations. He would not allow CPS in. He would not allow anyone in with any oversight because the first time anyone came in, it would be dreadfully serious that those poor girls were getting tormented. There were punishments also that involved staying up all night. There were punishments that you just could not even believe, some of the ones that they came up with for the girls there. And these are people that are claiming to be Christians. They're claiming that they are bringing the girls to Christ. Basically, what they're doing is they're doing the kind of things that would break someone's spirit and force them to be compliant. Hey, T. King, force them to be compliant with the worst you could imagine. Um, I've written a book on the death of Caroline Cole, which I believe is linked to New Bethany. And I believe New Bethany may have been linked to sex trafficking in the greater Shreveport Bossier City area. It's one of those areas where you have lots of roads converge from Dallas, from Little Rock, from all over the place. They converge and interstates going this way and that way and the other. So the Shreveport Bossier City area is a place where a lot of women have disappeared and their bodies have turned up all sorts of different places. I believe at one point there was a serial killer who was probably active along that corridor, from what I've been able to see. There's some girls that were at New Bethany that said they were sex trafficked. There are a lot of girls that say that other girls just mysteriously disappeared. When girls ran away, the police department sometimes would pick them up and take them to the nearest truck stop, which is a rather curious choice. Why would you take a vulnerable young teen to a place like a truck stop that is full of truckers? And some of those truckers, I hate to tell you, are probably sexual predators. If you look at the professions of a lot of serial killers, there are a large number that were long haul truckers. The FBI even has a long haul trucker serial killer task force. That's how many there were that were out there committing murders. The point of Christianity is not to break someone's spirit. It is really not. If you follow the teachings of Christ, it seemed to me that he was not trying to break anybody's spirit. He was trying to bring people in with love. He had no patience for those people in this world that were hypocrites. I mean, look how he treated the Pharisees, and they were always trying to trip him up on one rule or another. Look at Jesus, the way he treated women. He treated women like equals, pretty much. And I don't understand how Christianity, mainstream Christianity, can treat women like second class citizens when the guy they're claiming to all follow treated women like people of value that had worth. You sure wouldn't have been approving sex trafficking them through a truck stop. That would not have happened. So I shudder to think what Danielle Brigoli went through, but I thank, hey Angela, I thank whatever God there is in the sky. And there goes my cat. He's going to get his dry food. We keep it on top of the closet because it keeps all the strays out of it. And I feed him the expensive stuff. I feed him Royal Canin because he's had a variety of health problems. What I was going to say is that Bregoli, I pray that she heals from this, that she gets the kind of treatment she needs. Fortunately for her, she was not in the hands of a religious linked troubled teen home, because if she was, the abuse would have been a whole lot worse. There'd have been more of it. There'd have been sexual abuse galore. Now, she says there was sexual abuse going on at the Turnabout Ranch, and I don't disbelieve that. When young teenagers tell me in detail about some of the sexual assaults they've lived through, I believe them. I believe them every time because that's just not something that women are going to make up. I saw somewhere the statistics on fake stories of rape and abuse is only 2%. So that means 98% are telling the truth. And so many people are not coming forward and telling what happened to them that 98% only represents a very tiny portion of our population. And that's a sick and sad thing. I would like to see everybody feel safe enough, feel valued enough to feel worthy enough to come forward and tell about the sexual abuse that they've suffered. Sometimes that's the only way that you're going to find your way forward and you are going to heal. Okay, you guys, I'm going to put links to some of this in the description. I'm also going to put a link to RAIN. They are the network for sexual abuse and incest, the whole 9 yards, sexual abuse, incest, and rape. Another word that YouTube does not like that really needs to be used. There's no easy way around some of these things that I'm saying. I'm sure that I will get some strikes on this, but guess what? I don't really care at this point. I'm an old lady. I'm just going to shout out the truth as I see it. I'd like to see a world where young girls were not subject to sexual abuse or sex trafficking. We got some work to do to make that happen. Okay, you guys have a oh, I don't think even her efforts will help. Teens don't vote. That's true. That's true. That's true. But, and you're right, institutionalized abuse is standard. It is standard. We need to shine a light on this and end this. This needs to be an unacceptable thing. We need to vote against this. Those of us that are adults, we need to protect the teens. We need to believe them when they come forward and they tell us these things going on and stand up for them and see if we can get some kind of justice for them. Because this is one of those things that just keeps happening again and again and again, both in the Christian community and out. And I don't have an answer for it. I don't know what to tell you to do beyond help the teens and be open to the teens that you know in your life. And the ones that are sexually abused, link them up with organizations through RAIN or whatever and see that they get the kind of therapy and healing they need. The last thing they need is condemnation and blaming or being hauled off by a transporter that they don't even know to some troubled teen facility. Most of those places are not helpful at all. And most parents don't know enough to check on them. That's another thing I was talking about in the book. A lot of times when you have kids that are sent to these teen homes, it's because the family doesn't know what to do and they're under tremendous pressure, usually from the pastor. The pastor is usually linked to a lot of these places or some other authorities linked to these places. I remember SVU did a story that was based on a true story about a judge that was ordering all these kids to go to this one treatment center. And it turns out the judge was getting a cut of the action. You have to look at these places and look at what their core curriculum is. You have to go in there and examine it. You have to talk to a lot of people. You just don't believe the first people coming down the track saying, Hey, I can take care of your teen, but I'm not going to let you talk to them for a full year. That's New Bethany. I'm not going to let you talk to them for a full year. And when you can talk to them again, I'm going to sit there and I am going to censor the conversation. I'm going to censor the letters. I'm going to censor everything. About 18 months ago, I had a man come to me who put his daughter in one of those places, one of the Assemblies of God ones in Florida. And she came out and told him about the sexual abuse and everything else that had gone on. And he contacted me furious, wanting to know what to do because I had written about this particular home a couple times. And I had to tell him there's not a lot you can do. I mean, afterwards, um, he could go talk to social services. He could bring his daughter in as a rape victim, but there's not much else you can do at this point. We just need to step forward and demand better on this. I'm going to be thinking about this because right now there are no easy answers. Okay, I'm really going to go this time. It's been 20 minutes and I usually can't even hold a rational thought for that long. Y'all have a good evening and I'll see you later.